Jeopardy! Today on Channel 4.
For many married couples, making the decision to have a child makes them think about, gee, can we afford to have a child? Or how will a child affect our lifestyle? But for 1 in 5 American married couples, the decision to have a child is actually the beginning of an experience in fertility. And that's what we're going to talk about today, the infertility problem, and we have 3 outstanding experts with us. Joining us to talk, Dr. Joseph Bellina, who is recognized as one of the world's leading innovators in the science of laser surgery, which is used to help many infertile couples. Also joining us is a husband and wife team, Dr. Madhwa Raj and Dr. Shaila Raj, both of whom work at the LSU Medical Center. Madhwa is the Director of Research, and Shaila is the Acting Chief of the Section of Reproductive Endocrinology. We thank you all for coming. The first question is really addressed to all of you. I would like all of your comments, but is it that we are hearing so much more about infertility? Is it that we are talking more about it? Or is, in fact, the incidence of infertility greater?
Well, I think that the incidence is definitely rising. If you look at the literature over the last 25 years, you've seen a significant jump. Now, the question is this data skewed because our diagnostic capabilities are better? Or is there really something that's happened? I think that the sexual revolution has added a lot to our fertility problems today. Oral contraceptives have come into play. There's been an incidence or a rise in sexual transmissible disease. And also, probably one of the biggest things is women are preferring to have their children later in life, which makes them more at risk for diseases such as endometriosis.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Raj?
I think the other point is we are hearing more about it, reading more about it, and people are much more educated and they are aware of a problem like infertility can exist. So they are seeking help much more earlier. Mm-hmm. And as Dr. Bellina said, there are women who are trying to have their first baby at about age 38, try for 6 months and then come to your physician and say, I've tried for 6 months, is this, I think I'm infertile. I think, that is probably all the various factors put together, I think, is adding to the situation what we are seeing.
Well, do we all just assume then, of course I can have a child, and then when you want to have the child, that's when the problem begins?
That's right. They try for a short period, and then there's the panic. Oh my God, the clock is ticking. I'm getting old, and what am I going to do? And then the next thing, you seek help. And I think, they read a lot, most of the women's magazines. Mm-hmm. And of course, the show like this will add a lot more, to the awareness.
Well, how do you then define infertility? That a couple is trying for how long before they are said, one of you has a problem or both?
Usually we tell them for a younger couple, at least they would have tried for a year before, we can say they're infertile. But in an older, women who are reaching their 40s, we probably start investigating them after about 6 months instead of waiting for a whole year because of the time factor. So about a year for a younger couple is ideal. That is the standard definition. They should have tried for about a year with everything, they are living together and things are going well. And if they didn't get pregnant by about 1 year, then that's the time to start thinking about what to do next.
And that was very interesting that Shaila said couple. That's the word, not just the woman or the mm-hmm. man. And I'm very much impressed as to how prevalent is this incidence of infertility on a global scale, not only in the United States but all over the world, even in the middle of countries which are experiencing population explosion. You would be surprised to see couples craving to have a child. Mm. So there is a great incidence of infertility.
That was my next question, though. Is it more a cultural thing? Is it a socioeconomic problem?
I think it's a little bit of everything. Certainly, it is socioeconomic in third world countries, for example, where they would want a male child or they would want many children in order to support the parents in their old age, because they don't have the social security system. So it is as much socioeconomic as it is cultural, because in a number of cultures, a woman is not complete. For example, in some of the African cultures, a woman cannot even be married till they have children, so they go in reverse order. So certainly there are a number of factors contributing to it. And of course, we are now recognizing infertility in the male.
Well, that's
So
my next point, too, because I think that there is the perception that it's always, not always, but in most cases, it's the woman's problem, when, according to the literature I've read, it's sort of 40-40 and then a combined problem of 20%.
That's right. That's correct.
Are men, I don't want to say accepting it better, but what is their reaction when any of you have to say,
Yes,
this is the problem?
I was just yesterday reading the paper, and I found this woman who had written in one of the columns that when they went to the doctor and the couple were examined, and when the physician told them that it is the man who had oligospermia, a condition where you have a much smaller number of sperms, then the man did not take it very well, and apparently, unfortunately, it ended in a divorce. The woman had to divorce the man. As opposed to that, by and large, I must say though, that men with especially education are coming to the grips, taking grip of the situation, coming to terms with it, are able to accept it and proceed in a logical fashion and see how they could fulfill their ambition, because it is as much a man's ambition to have a child as it is a woman's, I believe. So I think with the level of education increasing, there is a more understanding view about infertility and what we can do about it.
We're talking about infertility, the causes, and some of the solutions next. We're talking about infertility. We have talked sort of in general about how it can come about. Dr. Bellina, could you be a little more specific? And then let's talk about some of the solutions that are available now.
Okay, infertility, when we say infertility, we're talking about a host of things that can run the gamut from correctable problems to non-correctable problems. And I think the major thing that we're looking at here today, about 90% of all infertility is correctable. There's about 10% of so-called unexplained or non-solvable infertility. The principal surgical disorders are endometriosis or conditions of pelvic infections that may have a mechanical impact. The more hormonal type of problems are fail to ovulate, or as we've heard before, in terms of sperm motility or sperm production. So when we're thinking about infertility, we have to think about on two sides. One, sperm production. The sperm have to be strong enough to swim upstream and get where they're going. Simultaneously, the egg has to be released on a timely basis, get in the fallopian tube, come down, the two unite, and then finally, that fused system, which will potentially be a little baby someday, has to go into the uterus and implant. So there's multiple areas where problems can exist.